Have you ever sent a message and watched that scene tick mock you in silence? Or greeted someone warmly only to receive a cold stare in return? We've all been there. That uncomfortable moment when someone's silence speaks louder than words. But my dear friends, what if I told you that how you react in those moments defines your peace, not their behavior? Today, let's talk about how to never react when someone ignores you, and how to rise above the noise of neglect. When someone ignores us, our mind begins to whisper stories. Maybe I'm not good enough. Did I do something wrong? Why are they treating me like this? But the truth is, most of the time, it has nothing to do with us. People ignore others not because we lack value, but because they are lost in their own storms. Some are battling insecurities, others are distracted, and some simply don't know how to handle emotions maturely. When we understand this, we stop taking things personally and start protecting our peace. When someone ignores you, the first instinct is to question yourself. You wonder what went wrong, what you might have said or done to deserve such treatment. But the truth is, being ignored often has far less to do with you and far more to do with what's going on inside the other person. People carry their own emotional baggage, insecurities and struggles, and sometimes their silence is simply a reflection of that. When you understand this, you begin to protect your peace instead of letting their behavior disturb it. Emotional maturity begins the moment you stop taking things personally. It is the art of understanding that the world doesn't revolve around you, and not every action directed toward you is about you. Imagine you text someone you deeply care about and they leave your message on scene. Your mind starts spinning stories. Maybe they don't care, maybe they've changed, maybe you did something wrong. But what if, instead of assuming the worst, you told yourself, maybe they're busy, maybe they're going through something, maybe it's not about me at all? That shift in perspective instantly disarms the ego and brings peace to the heart. The person who learns not to internalize others' actions becomes unshakable. Their calmness cannot be stolen because it is not built on external validation. Peace is a decision. It's not something others give you. It's something you guard fiercely within yourself. When you let someone's silence disturb your peace, you are handing them control over your emotions. But when you choose to protect your inner calm, you are declaring to yourself, my emotions belong to me, not to their behavior. It's about maintaining your emotional independence in a world that constantly tests it. The truly peaceful person doesn't chase attention, approval, or acknowledgement. They stay anchored in their own sense of worth. Taking things personally is like walking through life with open wounds. Every small action hurts. But when you realize that people act according to their state of mind, not your value, you stop bleeding for others' mistakes. You stop letting every silent treatment become an emotional earthquake. Protecting your peace means learning to separate perception from reality. You might feel ignored, but that doesn't mean you are insignificant. You might feel unseen, but that doesn't mean you lack light. The ones who are grounded in self-worth never crumble under someone else's indifference. In life, there will always be people who fail to see your value. That doesn't reduce your worth, it only reveals their perception. You don't have to prove your importance by reacting to their ignorance. True confidence is quiet. It doesn't scream for recognition. When someone ignores you, it's an opportunity to practice self-control, to rise above emotional impulses, and to master the art of inner peace. You must remind yourself, their silence cannot shake me because my peace does not depend on their attention. When you stop personalizing others' silence, you begin to live more freely. You start focusing on what truly matters, your growth, your purpose, your happiness. You spend less time analyzing others' behavior and more time cultivating your own strength. Every time you resist the urge to react, you reinforce the walls of your inner peace. You build emotional resilience, and that resilience becomes your greatest power. Because peace isn't found in people's responses. It's found in your ability to stay composed, regardless of what happens around you. So when someone ignores you next time, pause and breathe. Remind yourself that their silence says more about them than it ever could about you. Protect your peace by refusing to let temporary behavior cause permanent emotional damage. You are not defined by someone's recognition or rejection. You are defined by your own understanding of your worth. The moment you stop taking their actions personally, you reclaim your strength. And in that quiet strength, you find something more valuable than their attention. You find your peace. There's a quiet strength in choosing not to react when provoked, and that strength reflects emotional maturity at its highest form. When someone ignores you, the first impulse is often to react, to defend, to question, or to prove your worth. That instant reaction comes from the ego, which demands acknowledgement and validation. But responding is different. Responding comes from awareness, from understanding that not every situation requires a display of emotion or energy. The space between what happens to you and how you choose to deal with it determines your peace. And learning to control that space is what separates the calm from the chaotic. When you react instantly, you allow emotions to dictate your behavior. Anger, disappointment, and hurt take over, and before you know it, your peace has been traded for temporary satisfaction. But reacting never truly satisfies the soul, it only deepens the wound. Responding, however, allows reflection. It creates a pause, a moment to breathe, to assess, and to choose a response that aligns with your values rather than your emotions. That small pause is where wisdom lives. It is the difference between escalating a situation and mastering it with grace. When someone ignores you, the ego feels insulted because it equates attention with importance. You start to believe that silence means rejection and rejection means inadequacy. But the truth is, someone else's silence cannot define your worth unless you give it permission to. The person who can respond calmly to being ignored shows that their self-worth is intact and not dependent on another's validation. Responding doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means processing them in a healthy way. You acknowledge your emotions without letting them control your actions. That's not weakness, that's power. Think about it. Every time you react impulsively, you lose a little bit of your balance. You might send a message out of frustration, speak words you'll later regret, or carry resentment in your heart. Those moments drain your emotional energy and take you further away from peace. But when you respond with composure, you reclaim control. You show that your inner world cannot be disturbed by external noise. The calm mind sees the bigger picture. It realizes that not everything deserves a reaction, and not every silence needs a reply. Choosing to respond instead of reacting is not about indifference. It's about intelligence. It's the wisdom to recognize that energy is precious and should be invested where it matters. If someone ignores you, perhaps the lesson is not to chase them, but to check your attachment. Maybe the silence is not an insult, but an opportunity to strengthen your emotional independence. Responding gives you clarity. Reacting clouds your judgment. When you react, you amplify chaos. When you respond, you create space for understanding. The most peaceful people are not those who never face challenges. They are those who have learned to master their emotions in the face of them. They know that reacting gives others power, while responding keeps it within. Every time you choose to respond with calmness, you build resilience. You train your mind to stay steady, no matter how turbulent the situation becomes. The more you practice it, the more natural it feels. Soon, what once triggered you will no longer move you, because you built emotional armor made of patience and self-awareness. The power of response is not just in what you say, but in what you choose not to say. Sometimes silence is the most powerful response of all. It's a sign that you're above the drama, that your peace cannot be disturbed by someone else's immaturity. In a world that constantly provokes reaction, the one who can remain calm holds the real power. That calmness commands respect, not from others, but from yourself. Because every time you choose response over reaction, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your impulses. And that strength, that quiet control, is what true confidence looks like. The kind that cannot be shaken by someone else's behavior. Silence has an extraordinary power that most people overlook. When someone ignores you, silence can feel like punishment, as if the absence of words carries the weight of rejection. But in truth, silence is not always your enemy. It can be your greatest strength if you learn how to use it wisely. The ability to stay silent when provoked, neglected, or misunderstood is not a weakness, it's emotional mastery. It shows that your peace is not at the mercy of someone else's attention. Silence gives you space to think, to reflect, and to respond from wisdom instead of impulse. When people ignore you, they often expect a reaction. They expect you to break down, to question, to demand answers. They expect your peace to depend on their presence. But when you choose silence, you take away their control. You communicate something far more powerful than words ever could, that your emotional balance is self-created. In that quietness, you display self-respect, self-control, and strength. The one who stays silent with dignity does not lose. They simply refuse to play the game of ego. Silence allows clarity to rise above chaos. When emotions run high, words easily become weapons. We say things we don't mean, trying to fill the void created by being ignored. But silence allows you to hear the truth within yourself. It teaches you to separate what deserves your energy from what doesn't. Instead of pouring your strength into confrontation, you preserve it for growth. There's a deep grace in staying quiet while the world tries to provoke a reaction. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about realizing that peace is more valuable than proving a point. The power of silence also lies in how it reflects maturity. A reactive person speaks to be heard. A wise person stays silent to understand. Silence creates a space where your emotions can settle, where your thoughts can align with your values. When you are ignored, that space becomes a sanctuary, a place to remind yourself of your worth, to nurture self-love, and to let go of what no longer serves you. Silence turns pain into perspective. It transforms the noise of rejection into the music of inner peace. Sometimes silence says everything. When someone tries to diminish you by ignoring you, your silence says, "I know my worth, and I won't lower it by begging for attention." It's a statement of quiet confidence. You show the world that you're unshaken by someone else's absence. You communicate with your calm that your self-respect is louder than any words you could speak. In that stillness, you begin to heal, to grow, and to strengthen the bond you have with yourself. The moment you embrace silence as power, you stop seeing it as punishment. You realize that silence gives you the chance to regain your balance, to observe without judgment and to move forward with intention. It protects your dignity in moments when anger or desperation might have taken it away. It gives you control, not over others, but over yourself. And that control is priceless. Silence is also deeply healing. It teaches you to be comfortable in your own company, to find peace within rather than through others. It shows you that you don't need external noise to feel complete. When you no longer fear silence, you become unshakable. You start using it as a shield, as a tool for wisdom, and as a reminder that peace is found not in being heard, but in understanding yourself. So, when someone ignores you, stay silent, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Let your silence speak for you. Let it remind others that your peace cannot be disturbed by their neglect. Silence is not the absence of strength, it is the evidence of it. It is the quiet confidence that whispers, "I am enough," even in your silence. And that realization, once mastered, becomes one of the most powerful forms of self-control a person can ever possess. Self-worth is not something that can be handed to you by another person. It is something you build from within through self-awareness and self-respect. When someone ignores you, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking validation, waiting for their attention to confirm your value. but that mindset gives away your power. The moment you tie your worth to someone else's recognition, you make your peace conditional. Real strength comes when you can say, even if no one acknowledges me today, I still know who I am. That quiet certainty is what separates confidence from dependency. Validation from others feels good, but it's temporary. It fades the moment people shift their attention elsewhere. When your sense of worth depends on that fleeting approval, you're constantly chasing reassurance. You begin to live for others' opinions rather than your own truth. But when you cultivate self-worth, you no longer crave validation. You appreciate it, but you don't depend on it. You understand that someone's silence does not mean you are insignificant. It simply means they are unable to see your light, and their blindness doesn't dim your brightness. True self-worth is built in moments of solitude. When no one applauds you, when no one notices your efforts, and when no one seems to care, that is when you learn to be your own source of encouragement. It's in those moments you begin to realize that your value isn't determined by visibility, but by authenticity. You are worthy because of the person you are, not because of how many people recognize it. When you learn to appreciate yourself without external validation, you become unbreakable. People can ignore you, criticize you, or misunderstand you, yet your inner confidence remains intact. When you base your worth on how others treat you, you give them control over your emotions. One kind word makes you happy, and one cold shoulder breaks you down. But when your worth comes from within, you remain steady no matter how others behave. That steadiness is what peace looks like. You start living from a place of self-assurance rather than self-doubt. You no longer need to prove your value, you simply embody it. This quiet confidence radiates from within and often draws people toward you naturally, not because you chase their attention, but because they sense your inner balance. Ignoring someone can be a subtle form of control, consciously or unconsciously. It tests how much power they have over your emotions. But when you refuse to react and instead stand firm in your self-worth, you remove that power completely. You show that your happiness is not negotiable, that your self-esteem is not for sale. You teach others how to treat you by how calmly you treat yourself. When you know your value, you don't lower your standards just to be noticed. You stop running after those who walk away and focus instead on walking confidently on your own path. Self-worth is also about forgiveness. Not for others, but for yourself. It's about letting go of the need to please everyone. It's understanding that not everyone will appreciate you. And that's perfectly fine. The more you try to seek validation from everyone, the further you drift from your authentic self. But when you stay true to your values, your principles, and your character, you attract the kind of people who see your worth without needing to be convinced. That's the beauty of inner confidence. It doesn't chase, it attracts. The strongest people are not those who are constantly admired, but those who remain content even when unnoticed. Their happiness is not built on applause, but on peace. They don't need external acknowledgement to know their importance. They carry that awareness like a quiet flame within. And that flame burns brighter than any attention ever could. So when someone ignores you, don't question your worth, reaffirm it. Don't chase after temporary validation. Stand firm in your truth. Because your value was never meant to be proven to others. It was meant to be realized by you. Walking away with dignity is one of the most powerful and graceful acts of emotional intelligence. It is the silent declaration that your peace is worth more than proving a point, and your self-respect is more valuable than someone's attention. When someone ignores you, the impulse is often to seek closure, to demand answers, or to try and make them see your worth. But chasing acknowledgement from those who choose not to offer it only weakens your position. True strength lies in knowing when to stop talking, when to stop trying, and when to walk away with your head held high. Dignity doesn't mean pride. It means preserving your self-worth in moments when others fail to see it. When a person chooses to ignore you, they are making a statement, whether intentional or not. They are showing where their priorities lie, and that is information, not an insult. You don't need to retaliate, argue, or beg for recognition. The calm act of walking away communicates more than words ever could. It tells the world, I value myself enough not to stay where I am not respected. This quiet confidence is magnetic. It commands respect even from those who failed to offer it before. Dignity is not loud, it's silent strength wrapped in grace. Walking away is not about arrogance or ego, it is about alignment. It means you refuse to invest your time and energy into situations that drain your spirit or make you question your worth. It's understanding that peace is not found in winning arguments or changing minds. It's found in knowing you handled yourself with integrity. The person who can walk away without bitterness has already won the inner battle. They have chosen peace over pride and self-control over reaction. That choice separates the emotionally mature from the emotionally reactive. When you walk away with dignity, you also protect your emotional energy. You stop feeding the cycle of negativity that comes with seeking validation from the wrong places. Every time you chase someone's attention, you give them more power over your emotions. But when you step back gracefully, you reclaim that power. You begin to operate from a place of self-assurance rather than desperation. That shift changes everything. Your energy, your confidence, your presence. People who once overlooked you start noticing the change because confidence built on dignity is impossible to ignore. Walking away gracefully also teaches others how to treat you. It sends a message that you value respect over recognition and peace over popularity. Those who truly respect you will notice your calm departure and understand its meaning. They may not say it out loud, but they will feel the strength behind your silence. People often remember not what you said, but how you carried yourself when they expected you to lose control. That poise leaves a lasting impression, one that speaks of character and inner strength. The hardest part about walking away is the emotional attachment that tries to pull you back. The heart often wants to hold on, even when the mind knows it's time to let go. But dignity means trusting that letting go is not a loss. It's a declaration that you deserve better. It's realizing that staying where you are not valued only keeps you from the peace and respect you truly deserve. Letting go becomes easier when you understand that not every silence needs to be broken and not every relationship deserves revival. Every time you choose dignity over reaction, you evolve. You rise above the level of those who tried to diminish you. You show maturity not through retaliation, but through restraint. The person who walks away with dignity doesn't walk away to prove a point. They walk away to protect their peace. They understand that not every story needs closure and not every ending needs explanation. Sometimes the quietest exit carries the loudest message. When you can step away without anger, without resentment, and without the need to be understood, you've reached a level of peace that no one can take from you. That is what walking away with dignity truly means. Strength wrapped in serenity, power expressed through silence, and self-worth shining brighter than any validation could ever offer. Growth is one of the most powerful responses to pain. And when someone ignores you, it gives you a chance to rise rather than react. Choosing growth over grudge means you are using disappointment as a lesson instead of a wound. It's easy to hold resentment, to replay what happened, and to let bitterness take root. But growth demands maturity. It requires you to step back and ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of, why did this happen to me? That shift in mindset transforms your pain into progress. It changes moments of rejection into opportunities for reflection. When you choose to grow, you stop letting others dictate your emotions and start building emotional resilience that no one can shake. When someone ignores you, it often triggers a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion, even self-doubt. But holding on to those feelings only prolongs your suffering. Growth invites you to process them differently. Instead of feeding your ego with revenge or validation, you feed your soul with understanding. You learn that not everyone has the capacity to appreciate your presence or reciprocate your energy. And that's not your fault. People can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. When you accept this truth, you release the need to change others, and you begin to focus on changing what you can, yourself. Choosing growth over grudge doesn't mean you forget what happened. It means you learn to forgive without attachment. Forgiveness here isn't about excusing someone's behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight it carries. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Growth teaches you to set that poison down. It teaches you to replace anger with acceptance and resentment with understanding. You begin to see that every disappointment is shaping you into someone stronger, calmer, and wiser. Every person who ignores you teaches you the value of your own attention. The beauty of growth is that it changes your perspective. Instead of asking why someone ignored you, you begin to ask why you gave them so much emotional power in the first place. You start recognizing patterns, how you respond, what triggers you, and how to protect your peace better next time. This kind of awareness is the foundation of personal development. It's how you transform experiences of neglect into lessons in self-worth. Growth turns your focus inward, where real change happens. It helps you build a deeper relationship with yourself, one that isn't dependent on who stays or who walks away. People who hold grudges often stay stuck in the past, replaying scenarios that no longer exist. But growth means moving forward. It's understanding that you can't rewrite what happened, but you can rewrite what it means to you. Instead of letting the experience harden your heart, you let it sharpen your wisdom. You learn to approach future relationships with clarity instead of fear, with boundaries instead of walls. You stop chasing closure from others because you found closure within yourself. That's what emotional maturity looks like, turning pain into perspective. Every time someone ignores you, the universe gives you a small test. It asks, will you let this make you bitter, or will you let this make you better? The answer defines your peace. Growth requires humility. The humility to admit that you cannot control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond. It requires strength. The strength to walk away without resentment. And it requires grace. The grace to wish them well even as you distance yourself. This combination of humility, strength, and grace is what makes personal growth so powerful. When you choose growth over grudge, you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a student of life. You realize that being ignored doesn't reduce your worth. It simply redirects your focus. It pushes you to grow in silence, to build quietly, and to become someone whose peace doesn't depend on external acknowledgement. You come to understand that every person who leaves teaches you something that staying could never have taught. And in that realization, you find freedom. The freedom to evolve, to let go, and to keep moving forward with calm confidence. Growth becomes your greatest revenge, not because it hurts others, but because it heals you. So, my friends, the next time someone ignores you, don't react, reflect, don't chase, choose. Choose peace over pride, calmness over chaos, and self-respect over self-doubt. Because life is too precious to waste on people who can't see your value. Remember, your worth is not measured by someone's attention, but by your awareness of who you truly are. Stay calm, stay kind, and keep smiling, even when ignored. Because those who truly matter will never make you feel invisible. And those who make you feel invisible, they were never meant to stay.